All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. A question came in. Question came in earlier, and that is about this idea about the Sanhedrin. That some claim that let's say if you're Messianic, rejecting Jewish Sanhedrin, well, that makes sense because they're going to reject anything that the rabbis say or do. That's pretty clear. But the question was about there are some rabbis today who want to start a Sanhedrin, right? So, even so, is that a sign? The question is that a sign of the Messiah coming? Or is it a puppet court to try and convert Jews to Christianity? Right? Now, what is this Messianic claiming? Right? Orthodox Jews are behind the Sanhedrin. Now, that's true. There are some Orthodox Jews that are behind this, behind this whole thing. Now, the problem is that you're not going to have a Sanhedrin until the Messiah comes. So the question is, how do these rabbis get around that? That they're going to claim you can have a Sanhedrin, without the Messiah or before the Messiah comes back. Right? So there's going to be a whole question. There's going to be a whole question how they're going to, answer that. And really, with the Sanhedrin, you need a Messiah first. How can you have a Sanhedrin first? You need the temple to be rebuilt. You need the Messiah to come, right, etc. Messiah has to do certain things. Let's make clear. One of them is going to bring the exile, right? He has to bring all the Jews in, from outside of Israel. Second thing is, you got to rebuild the temple, right? And third thing is, you can't die in the process, right? This is something the Messiah of David comes from the house of David, right? Those are three conditions. Cannot die. How do I know? Because Rambam says, where do you want it out from? You want it out from the story, what happened to Bar Kokhba, or known in the Gemara as Bar Koziva. What happened to Bar Koziva? They had a rebellion against the Romans. They got killed. And Rabbi Akiva thought, beyond the shadow of a doubt, Bar Kokhba or Bar Koziva was the Messiah. And what happened? He died. He was killed. Right? So the Rambam there learns that the Messiah cannot die. Now there are two Messiahs. One is the Messiah of Yosef, comes from the tribe of Yosef. And the other is the Messiah from David. The Messiah of David cannot die. Cannot die. There is a question whether the Messiah that comes from Joseph dies or not. That there's a question. Now the Gemara entertains the question. Some, the difference of opinion. Some say will die, some say won't. Right? But even if he would die, even if he would be killed, so, that doesn't stop the fact that you have a Messiah of David. Now, the Messiah of David is going to do all these other things, right? As we mentioned, if Yosef is going to help, but the Messiah of David cannot die. Can't die. And once that happens, what are you going to have established? You have the Sanhedrin. How can the Sanhedrin be established first? The problem. Right? So I understand the Messianics would never listen. Why would they listen to the rabbis? They're against the rabbis. So if they're against the rabbis, it's not going to make a difference. Whether they do it before the Messiah, after the Messiah, right? To them, it's going to be irrelevant. They're not going to hold by it anyway. Okay. But what's the problem? What's the problem? Even if you tell me you have ultra-Orthodox Jews, or you have, let's say better, you have Orthodox rabbis. Many of them are not ultra-Orthodox. There might be non-Orthodox, right? Not too many, if any, there, are Orthodox. That's one thing. ultra-Orthodox. Very different, they differ in opinion, on many things, a number of things, right? But the point is, a lot of these rabbis are rabbi doctors, i.e. PhDs and, who knows what. So would I say they're mainstream in the ultra-Orthodox community? No. I don't think any of them are. So that being the case, they don't represent the ultra-Orthodox community. Not only that, nobody in the ultra-Orthodox community holds by it. They're not giving their stamp of approval saying, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a huge thing. We back it, we support it. No. Same thing with the Temple Institute. Right? There are people big into the Temple Institute there. They're building, let's say vessels to be ready for the next temple and this and that, doing all kinds of things. Okay. Who are the vast majority, of these people involved? They're non-Orthodox. They're not ultra-Orthodox. How many ultra-Orthodox rabbis hold by it? Not too many. Right? So it's these same type of people that are also going to say, so these things go hand in hand, that they're also going to say it's permissible to go on Har Bayis. It's permissible to go on the Temple Mount. Now, we spoke about that last week, with Ben Gavir going up, etc. And we mentioned, we're not going to go through the whole thing, we mentioned that the vast majority of ultra-Orthodox rabbis, forget about politics, hold you're not allowed to go up there. Period. When I say the majority, I mean the majority. I'm not saying 51%. We're talking like 98%. It's a huge majority. So there are those that say, we know where to go. We know, where to stand. We know where not to go, right? Because again, you got a problem with the Holy of Holies and all that. So say we know all the places not to go. So forget about politics. Okay. You want to take a chance with being spiritually cut off? I don't think people want to necessarily take that chance. Right? So the vast majority of these people that are going to go up there are more Orthodox. Are there ultra-Orthodox rabbis who say it's okay? Yeah. Are they the majority? Not even close. Not even close. So again, there are political ramifications, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the vast, vast majority hold not that way. That we're not sure where to go. And therefore we don't go up. Because you're playing with being spiritually cut off. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. All right? So that being the case, you got to go according to the majority. I'm already talking about the ramifications. Right? You got to do what the majority do. What the majority say. And this is for good, not for bad. Right? So in such a case, those people consider themselves rabbis of this Sanhedrin. Who holds by it? Unless you're more Orthodox. Someone will blow me away and say, oh, look, this great rabbi said it's okay. This other great rabbi said it's okay. Okay, maybe they're a handful. Maybe. I'll be generous. I'm in a generous mood today. Right? Maybe that would be the case. So what? Right? Who cares? Because everybody else doesn't hold of it. So I have 2 out of 1,000. Well, what does it matter? Irrelevant. But people get caught up in this thing. Say, hey, look, there's a group that's restarting the Sanhedrin. Okay? But who's holding by it? Right? Who's holding by it? Nobody. And there are those that'll say, and I just saw something earlier, about the importance, of going up to, the Temple Mount. For a Jew, doesn't apply to a non-Jew. Non-Jews can go up to the Temple Mount. Right? That's not an issue. It's an issue for Jews. Now again, this whole big thing, we have to go up there, we have to show, it's ours. Okay. Right? There's some people who believe it. Fine. Are they in the majority? Not even close. Not even close. They'll say Sanhedrin, same thing. Right? Gonna say the same thing. Right? But here you got people, you got people that are, first of all, the messianic. So they're not going to accept it anyway, so which is true, because they're not going to hold by what the rabbis say anyway, right? But the problem is, but there are Orthodox Jews involved. Okay, let's see. Which Orthodox Jews are involved? Is it the vast majority of ultra-Orthodox rabbis and Hasidim? No. Mostly modern Orthodox. Right? And these same people, just throw this out there also, a lot of these same people will be wearing techelos on their tzitzis. Right? That blue thread, because they're going to claim, we know what the blue thread is today. Right? So, there are people that wear it. Breslov, Hasidim wear it, as well. But there's other people who say, we know which one it is now, and okay. Again, like all these things go together. Why do I say that? Because if you look what these people do, if it's a pattern, these are all things off the beaten track. Now, you're going to say, why is that off the beaten track? Because people will say, if I put it on my tzitzis, and it doesn't nullify the tzitzis, doesn't knock it off. In other words, if I put it on, maybe you tell me I don't get the mitzvah of tzitzis. Okay, we don't hold that way. They're going to say, if I put it on, I don't lose anything. Either you want to tell me it's not real, it's not the right thing, so you don't lose. You're not adding anything. You're not over a total prohibition of adding to the Torah. You don't lose anything, and it might be the real thing. So if it's the real thing, you benefit. If it's not the real thing, you don't lose. So what's the problem? So why don't the vast majority of rabbinic authorities do it? And they say that you should do it. Because my Rebbe would say, you don't do something, you don't have a clear-cut Masorah, a clear-cut tradition. You don't have a clear-cut tradition, even though you don't lose. In this case, you have to gain. You only have to gain. Maybe it's the real thing. You don't lose. Right? That doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter because you don't do something you don't know. You have a clear-cut tradition. That's it. Now, some people may poo-poo that and say, oh, we don't have a clear-cut tradition. You shouldn't do it. But the argument on the other side, you might say, is a strong argument. You don't lose. You don't lose. Right? The reality is that, as my Rebbe would say, you don't know. You don't know what the clear-cut tradition is. And even if you're not going to lose, the premise is you don't have a clear-cut tradition, you don't do it. We're not making up new things, even if you don't lose. Because you don't play with tradition. You don't play with these things, even if it doesn't hurt you. Now, the other side would laugh that off and say, what does it matter? I understand tradition's an important thing. But if you don't lose, you can only gain. 100%, you can only gain over here. Right? So what? So you don't lose. But, it's not, I don't think it's a small thing. It's not a small thing. Sephardic people, they have a tradition on which locusts are kosher or not. Well, thank God I'm not Sephardic. They don't have a desire to eat locusts. Right? They have a tradition. Okay? And if you don't have a tradition, you can't eat it if you're Ashkenazi. You can't eat it. Turkey, we claim we have a tradition. Some Sephardic people don't eat turkey. Okay. For Ashkenazim, you can eat turkey as much as you want. There is a tradition. Tradition is not something that you mess with. If you have it, very good. If it's proven, very good. If not, why take chances? Some people will say, well, I can do it. I should be able to do it. Right? But a lot of these things come under the same thing. The person who wears techelis probably is going to go on the Temple Mount. The vast majority of people say, rabbinic authorities say you shouldn't do it. Potentially get spiritually cut up. No, we know better. We're going to do it. Forget about provocations they have. It's a totally different issue. They're going to say we know better, and that right comes under the same thing. Doing things that are not, they're not done by the majority. That's what we have to do. Whether we like it, we don't like it, you go according to what the majority do. For good, again, not for bad. So if there's a certain standard, you got to hold by the standard. Unless there are different standards in a community. Because you don't want to stick out. We're very much, unfortunately, or fortunately, we're very much into externals and how a person looks. All right, so I heard Reb Berkowitz should be well, the Innovation Torah, and someone asked them about about dress and about yeshiva people wear black hats and suits and white shirts with or without suits with or without pinstripes, dark dark blue, dark gray, whatever it is. So one of the things he said, I think is very true. He doesn't necessarily need me to agree, right? But I think it's very true. And that is, if you go outside the norm, you stick out. So you're right, it's a uniform. And people say, I don't want to wear the uniform. I'm not interested in wearing the uniform. You know what? You put on the uniform. You think firefighters like to wear their uniform? You think they're all excited to wear the uniform? Policemen, some of them, maybe take a lot of pride wearing their uniform. They're the uniform. He says, you want to fit in, that's what you do. Why start problems? What's the point of starting problems? What, show you're different? Show I'm not going to conform? It brings up all kinds of things they might say aren't real and doesn't matter and might very well be true. But he made a very strong point. And he said, why open up a Pandora's box if you don't have to? Just wear it. Wear a t-shirt. Just do it. That's it. That's a uniform. Live with it. That's what we do. He said to make a big issue of it's going to cause a lot of problems. But you're going to say, come on, does it really matter what a person wears? Tell something about a person. You can have a person wear all the right things, be a terrible person, be a terrible Jew. Could be. Yeah, people that don't look so religious, maybe more religious, but they don't dress the part. People have an issue. Not going to say no. There are people who have issues. Dressing the part. But it comes at a price. I'm going to tell you it comes at a price. Unless you're in that type of community where people wear different things. Person does not want to stick out. Certainly a person in the process of conversion, you move to a community, you want to do what the community does. You'll stick out enough. You don't want to stick out more. Right? And here in Eretz Yisrael, it's a land of extremes. Either one way or the other. There's nowhere in the middle here. In a lot of ultra-Orthodox communities in the States and other places, same thing. So one of the best advice I got is you want to be here, you got to fit in. You got to fit in. Because if you don't fit in, what's going to happen? You're going to spit out. And here it's worse. Here it's more, I would say, it's more, fanatical than other places. In that sense. That's what you got to do. If you live in a place, that's, let's say, more mixed, okay, but keep in mind how a person dresses is the community they want to identify with. Now, in the bigger scheme of things, does it really mean anything? So I'll say yes and no, right? A good rabbinic answer. Why yes and no? On the one hand, you want to identify with the community. That's important. The second thing is you feel different the way you dress. If I would wear, let's say an Izod shirt. I know Izod's still in fashion, or a polo shirt. No matter what color, not too bright, let's say. Is there a difference? You wear that and you wear cotton pants for a guy, makes you, you're walking around casual. Okay. But if you wear a suit, feel different. You definitely feel different. Person goes to work, they have to get dressed up. What's the first thing they do when they come home? They turn on the TV. Second thing, they'll change their clothes. Or vice versa. Why they change their clothes? Because that's not who they are. They dress up for the job. I remember I ticked somebody off once saying, another person offended by the way I dress, right? With the suit and the hat and all that. So I said, in Wall Street, people dress up, and this person was the financial, we're in the financial area. So people get dressed up. If you work in Wall Street, double-breasted suit, single-breasted suit. I don't know if things have changed. Let's say it hasn't. So they're dressing the part. Why are they dressing the part? This person got totally ticked off when I said it. Why are they dressing the part? You know why they're dressing the parts? They're dressing the part for money, for their job, not for life, for their job. Because the person obviously got a little bit upset. And they said, so why you dress up every day? I said, because I do it for God. I do it because that's part of the uniform. You're doing it because you're getting paid to do it. That's a huge difference. Huge difference. They didn't like my answer. Okay? Right? But again, a person feels different the way they dress. Come into Shabbos, you got to wear different clothes than you would during the week. To show Shabbos is special. To show festivals are special. Would I wear the same cotton pants and izod or polo shirts on Shabbos? No. Some people might. They'll say it's just as good for Shabbos. Maybe. It's not the same. You don't feel the same. And if a woman gets dressed up more fancy on Shabbos, nothing wrong with it. I mean, it shouldn't be ostentatious, but nothing wrong with it. Dressing up for the day. Because it's a holy day. Wouldn't wear the same things they would during the, that they would during the week. It's not the same. So when a person will say again, do externals really matter? They shouldn't. Because it depends what a person does. Depends on their actions. But, we've gone overboard. We've gone overboard. And kids in school that, there are issues. How long does the skirt have to be, below the knee? And if it's too short and this, a lot of places don't necessarily explain the laws of modesty well. That's a problem. And not only that, kids get embarrassed and, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. There are some people that just, they don't get it. They don't see why they have to, and they rebel because it gets rammed down their throat, not explained. This stuff has to be understood, has to be internalized. If you understand the bigger picture, what difference does it make if it's, has to be a quarter of an inch below the knee or more or whatever it is? What difference does it make? Because there are people who have issues with it. You know why they have issues? Why some people do? Because of what fashion is out there. Even if, let's say, a woman will wear a skirt, and the length is very good, but it's tight. It's also a problem. It's also not modest. Right? It shouldn't be tight. Or the skirt shouldn't be too short, where, if a woman sits down, you can see above the knee. But some people, it's a struggle. It's a huge struggle. And people are going to be looked at in a different way because of it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying there's a reality. Now, that person philosophically could be very strong in Torah mitzvah, extremely strong in Torah mitzvah. But if you look at the way they dress, sometimes people will say, come on, how religious are they? I wouldn't want, this person for my son. But there's a trend. I'm not saying it's good. There's a trend, of married women dressing up, in an unmodest way. Goes the same thing with a wig. If a woman covers her hair when she's married. Sephardic women will never cover their hair with a wig. Because they hold, according to Sephardic rabbinic authorities, they hold that a wig is nicer than a person's hair. Right? So they say you shouldn't wear it. You should wear a scarf, a beret, hat, whatever, but not a wig. By Ashkenazim, we hold it's okay as long as it's modest, as long as it's before shoulder length. If it goes too far, it's immodest. I saw a young woman last year. I mean, it hasn't changed. I definitely don't think it's changed. I saw this woman, and this and this wig was like 3/4 down her back. I mean, that was like, like, what are you doing? That's but person lives in a more, I would say, Anglo community here. So, that's more acceptable there. They walk in the community I live in, different issue, right? Different standards. Okay, but that even the rabbinic authorities that agree that a woman's allowed to wear a wig, even if they agree, that type of wig is forbidden. 100%. Calls attention. Anything calls attention should be forbidden. Now, that being said, so, for Ashkenazim, a woman can wear a wig. It's got to be modest. Can't be too long. So we hold it's okay. So there is a difference of opinion. Someone say you should never wear it. Why? Because it looks better than your hair. Okay. Sephardic women don't wear wigs. Very good. So different opinions. And some will claim, and that's what the proper halacha is, that wig should be totally forbidden even for Ashkenazim. Now, what's the halacha? What's the simple halacha? You have to cover your hair. Hair is considered licentious by a woman. So imagine a woman, even if she's got a long wig, she wants to try and entice a guy, she's playing with her wig. I don't think that's so enticing. Maybe that's just me. Imagine a woman like playing with her hair, but you can tell it's a wig. Should be able to tell. Maybe people can't because they're not used to seeing wigs. Okay. But it's not the same. I remember once, the woman, whatever, an older woman, I used to always see with either berets or mostly berets, some scarves or whatever. And one time, I see it with hair. So I'm like, what happened? You're not covering your hair anymore? And she went like this. She went, zoop, just to show it was hair. It wasn't her hair, right? That it was a wig. As I can tell you, that's not so appetizing. That's not so enticing. Now, you tell me, okay, it was a short wig, fine. You gotta tell me it's a long wig. The woman's, playing with her hair, this and that. If you can tell it's a wig, it's a wig. If you're gonna say some of them are so much better, so much nicer, and you can't tell, okay? Right? But we hold it's permissible as long as it's modest. Right? As long as it's modest. So, so again, one of the most important things, certainly for JIT, Jew in training, or even a Jew, you want to fit into, you want to be in the community, you got to fit in. Some communities, let's say a Chabad community, or let's say young Israel type community, more an Orthodox community, people wear different things. There are different standards. But if someone goes to an ultra-Orthodox community, there's pretty much one standard. Give or take. There's like one standard, the way people dress. Some more, some less, but there's one standard. So that you don't follow the standard, don't live there. You're going to say, I'm going to buck the system. Not worth it. Not worth it. You pay a serious price. You get a reputation, you get ostracized. You do what the community does. Bottom line. Someone asks, someone there mentions, very funny, how messianics buy books written by rabbis, they don't hold by the rabbis, right? Yeah. Well, they're going to read things and, we don't hold by the rabbis. So why are you reading it? Oh, we don't hold by the rabbis, but we go according to the Masoretic text that puts vowels. Put vowels in the Torah. How would you know what the words say if you didn't have the rabbis? So just admit you pick and choose. So people say, no, I'll read what the rabbis say and then I'll demolish them. Well, why waste money? Well, yeah, it's a good point. Why would you do that? I'm not buying out, buying different versions of the New Testament so I can rip the shreds. All they need is one. Because they say, wow, it's so bad. I'm going to bring out this contradiction, that contradiction. I need to own 150 different translations. Forget it. Right. But yeah, they're very quick to say we don't hold by the rabbis and this and that. They're busy, buying their stuff. Good point. Someone asks, isn't that even a bad Jew dresses the part at least desires to be a good Jew? Saying that if a person does not dress the part, they could be more religious than people who do dress the part. They could be on a much higher level. Because the ones that dress the part could be, fooling everybody, including themselves. But if they're growing, even if they don't dress the part, there are many Israeli Bali Tshuva. When they return to Judaism, they don't leave where they live. They stay in the areas where they live. Wherever they are. They don't change the way they dress. I mean, some of them do, but a lot of them don't. They stay the same in that sense. Different reasons why. But just because a person dresses a certain way does not mean that's who they are. That doesn't mean where they're holding in Torah mitzvah. I remember I hitched a ride. I was up north with somebody, and this person starts asking me all these different questions, and Talmud and Jewish philosophy and this and that. He wasn't wearing a yarmulke. I thought, okay, kind of interesting. They asked me this question. I didn't, I wasn't judgmental. Whatever. So this guy in the middle of the ride says, "Oh, you're probably wondering why I don't have a yarmulke on. I don't have my skull cap on or my kippah on." He said. So I said, not really. Whatever. So the guy says, I was busy doing something outside. Whatever. I had my yarmulke on. I was driving down. A huge thing of wind came and blew it off. I'd have an extra one. So he said, somewhere, I don't know, wherever it is. He said, I wasn't going to stop to try and get it. Right? That's why I don't have a yarmulke on my head. So you can't judge. You don't know. Not only you can't judge, but you're not allowed to judge someone unless you've been in their shoes. So you don't know. You don't know. We can guess sometimes, but we don't know, essentially. We don't know. Now, this person, dressed to not necessarily look like an Orthodox Jew. Just the way he was dressed. Another person was working, doing other things, whatever it was. So I was thinking, this person, is asking me all these questions. Very interesting. Maybe he saw by one of my glances. I don't know. Could be by body language. And then he said something. I wasn't thinking anything either way. I thought it was interesting, but I wasn't, I know he's religious, not religious. He seemed religious, okay? Talk religious, okay? And have yarmulke on his head, that's kind of a sign. And some people say I don't wear it because, maybe I'm not holding by everything and it's embarrassment and, only if I'm holding by doing things, then I should wear it. Whatever, people have different reasons. Different reasons why or why not. Whatever the case is. But you can't judge. You can't make assumptions. You don't make assumptions. You don't know. You definitely don't know. But it's just ironic. This person asked me all these different questions. I'm thinking he lives in this community. It's a mixed community. Not everyone there is religious. Whatever. So I said, okay. So, maybe he's not a religious person, but he's learning. He's got good questions, good philosophical questions. I was thinking in my head, well, who is this guy? Right? But, it didn't stop me from speaking to him. Didn't stop me having an interaction, having a whole discussion. It's just kind of interesting. He's quoting different things. I remember a friend of my mother's passed away a couple of years ago. Blessed memory, when his first wife died before I came to Israel. This is 30 years ago. And I guess somehow my mother had found out this person's wife died and they became religious. They knew each other from I don't think they went to the same high school, but whatever, they knew each other from the same area, whatever. And anyway, my mother, I guess, sent a card to him after his wife had passed away, and he sent her a response. He sent her a card back, and she told me when I'm in Israel, I should look him up. He actually, lived in the neighborhood where I learned in the morning. So I look at this card that he sent back, and he's quoting verses, he's quoting, midrashim, different things. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, how do you know this guy? She's like, I know him from, whatever, from school when she was a kid, when she was a teenager or whatever. And I said, well, it sounds like a religious guy. She said, you should go look him up. I said, when you're in this neighborhood, go look him up. So my mother said, he probably won't recognize your last name. Tell him my maiden name. That was it. So I happened to be in his neighborhood one day. And whatever, with a friend of mine. I had his address. I said, you know what? I'm going to knock on his door. Right? I'm right there. I said, I'm knocking on his door. I knocked on his door. I told him who I was. He didn't recognize the name. So I said, well, you know my mother. You grew up with my mother. He's like, well, who's your mother? I told him my mother's maiden name. And like, his jaw hit the ground. His jaw hit the ground. I said, yeah, I'm her son. So I, developed a relationship. That's before I was married. And he came to the wedding, he saw my mother, whatever, the whole thing. So, I was buying for Shabbos. We used to, I used to speak to him a lot. It was, like the grandfather I really never had in many ways. But, it's just kind of a funny story that, out of all people, I mean, he was saying that about me also. He's like, out of all people, I said, my mother got this thing, when your wife passed away. And I was like, who is this guy? Okay, it was, quoting all this religious stuff. I'm like, who is this guy? She said, you go look him up. I said, so here I am. So whatever, my parents from way back. So it was like a closing of the circle, right? As they say. Whatever. Interesting story. But what's the point? The point is, shouldn't get caught up the way people dress. The person could be growing spiritually, 100%, and just don't dress the part. They don't want to dress the part. Whatever it could be. Again, a lot of reasons, potential reasons why. But you can't judge. You don't know. You just, they can be, I'm not just saying a Jew at heart. They can be more traditional. They just don't dress the part. Okay. Right. But again, you want to fit in certain circles and certain religious communities. You got to dress the part. That's what it is. There's no way to change it. That's what it is. Places that have different, what's the word? Different levels of what people do. Okay. But if it's a uniform community, and where I am, there are Hasidim, there are Sephardic people, there are Ashkenazic people. Everyone's religious, for the most part. So most people dress the part. About everybody. Some more, some less, but it's uniform. But if you live in a place that's much, it's more mixed, different issue. Then you got more leeway. How to dress. But again, it's about who you want to identify with. What type of community you want to identify with. That's what I would say on that. Someone asks, 3 meals, exactly how many challah loaves should be enough for 2 or every meal? You need 2. You need 2 whole challahs. Again, doesn't necessarily mean big rolls. Big challahs. Persons by themselves or not a lot of people. You can take 2 rolls. 2 rolls, they have to be whole. They have to be whole. Right? At each meal. You have to have 3 meals. I'm just going through these laws, at the Shabbos table. So, the 3rd meal, Shabbos goes out relatively early, you got to pace yourself. A man, woman should have challah both at all 3 meals. Now, the question is, if you feel you can't eat anything, and by the 3rd meal, you just can't eat anything, okay. Right? But there's an obligation to eat challah, at 3 meals. You can't eat challah, have a piece of cake. Can't eat a piece of cake, have some fruit. Can't eat fruit, you're too stuffed, okay. Then you don't eat. But there's an obligation. There's an obligation for men and women together equally to have challah at all meals. Right? 2, that you have to make the blessing on 2 complete whole challah. Now again, doesn't mean they have to be long. They can be 2 rolls. They can be 2 rolls, 2 pitas, as long as they're whole. That's the most important thing. And sing, when the person sings mirrors at the meal. There are some mirrors mean songs, right? Some songs you sing Friday nights, some Shabbos day, and some by the 3rd meal. Right? But they're all, It's during the meal. When does the person want to sing? Whenever they want. Some sing in between dishes, some sing in the middle, some sing at the end, some sing the whole time. Whatever a person wants. Can I know I'd lie to an apartment renting guy and say I have a chance to get the apartment? Or let's say you're looking for a job, but you're really not. Yeah, that you're not allowed to do. Who says lying's okay? Right? My Rebbe would say, there's a prohibition in the Torah, it's called Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Not allowed to lie. That applies to Jews and non-Jews. Right? You don't lose by telling the truth. There are certain things you are allowed to lie for. Very few. Very, very few. This isn't one of them. Right? Either to get a job or to say you're not interested in a job, but you really are, or vice versa. Whatever it is, not allowed to lie. Right? And it's a pretty serious thing because it doesn't end. Person tells one white lie, you can say, oh, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Because at least the other thing. Because then a person gets used to doing it. Once you get, as we say, once you get used to doing something, it becomes part of you. And then when you really want to tell the truth, you end up lying. Right? It's one of the things by Lashon Hara, it's lies. Person makes up lies about someone else. It's also Lashon Hara if you speak the truth about someone. And it's bad or derogatory. But a lot of times, speaking badly against someone else is you're adding things. You're adding things in that aren't true. That you can't. Right? That, not only are you lying, but you're speaking badly against them. Right? So lying is never good in general. We said for a few things you are allowed to, but in general, not. 99% of the time, you're not allowed to lie. Let's say better. You're not allowed to lie. It's only for a certain, a handful of things. You're not allowed to misrepresent. You're selling, let's say a person's selling something. You're making it out to be something it's not. That's fraud. Right? Essentially, it's stealing. Right? Because of that. So, a lot of these laws, by the way, when it comes to things like this, or all the laws of damages, Torah prohibitions. Wouldn't be necessarily death penalty, for a non-Jew unless they actually steal from someone, even a very small amount. But here, you're committing fraud. You're misrepresenting. You're misleading people. How are you allowed to mislead people? Person walks into a store, right? You walk into a store. Someone says, "Can I help you?" And then you sort of make believe you're like egging them on, but you have no intention of buying anything. That's also forbidden, right? Why are you wasting their time? You're not allowed to waste their time. They're there to make a sale. You're not going to buy. So what does the person say? He said, "I'm just looking, just browsing." That's what you got to say. You're not there to buy anything. You're not interested in buying anything. So if you're not interested in buying anything, so you tell them. I wouldn't say that. You just say, "I'm looking. I'm just looking around. If I need help, I'll come." That's it. You don't waste their time. They have to have no intention. If you have intention to buy, okay. If you're not sure, it's also okay. Because you might end up buying. But if you know 100% you're not going to buy, why are you wasting their time? A waste of time. Yeah. Any other, let's see. Good question. Someone asks, what happened in Egyptian bondage, not incumbent on the tribe of Levi. So I tell you, go back. I'll give an answer, but go back and watch my video last week's part. Not the one I put out this week about Ben Gurion's biggest mistake. I mentioned over there that even the Egyptians knew the holiness of Kohanim, the holiness of the tribe of Levi. They did not subject them to punishment. Why? Because even according to them, they're holy people because they're from that tribe. Like they understood. Even the Egyptians understood they're a holy people. They're holier than the rest of the people. Let's say better. They're holier than the rest of the people. That's why they didn't put them to servitude. They didn't make them work. Like everybody else. Because they're a separate class. Totally separate class. So Rebbe says they got the point. The Egyptians got the point. They didn't give them servitude. And that was the whole thing with Ben Gurion, because Ben Gurion wanted to draft yeshiva students. So these great rabbis went to him and said it'd be terrible, you shouldn't do it, and it's worse than what happened during the Holocaust. So he said, okay, I'll leave you a little bit of a museum. You want your museum that's going to be left over from the ashes of the Holocaust? Fine, I'll leave you a little bit of your museum. Because he thought, how many yeshiva students would have been exempt at that time? 1,500. So he said, fine, I'll let them be exempted from the army. 1,500. Very good. Did he ever think it was going to be the numbers it is today? No. And he said on himself, that was the one mistake he made. That was the one mistake he made. Because he thought they're going to die out in a generation anyway. So what? So why am I going to subject them, to the army? So he said, fine, I'll give them their little place because they're going to die off anyway. They're never going to be able to pass it down. He made a mistake. My Rebbe pointed out there, the Egyptians knew better. The Egyptians know you don't mess with the tribe of Levi. Kohanim are a different breed. Totally different breed. So therefore you leave them alone. The rest of the Jewish people, different issue. Because he knew they were holier people. That's why they didn't serve. Right? That's why it wasn't incumbent on the tribe of Levi. Yeah, someone points out. True. You got messianics making arguments against the Gemara where they don't even believe in the Gemara, right? Did that a number of times on controversial issues. A number of these things that they cherry pick. It makes non-Jews look bad in this way and that way and the other way. What do you care? You don't believe in the Talmud anyway. No, they just want to say we don't hold by the rabbis. Look how racist they are. Look how terrible they are. Look what they say against non-Jews. Look what they say about women, and this and that. True, right? If you don't hold by them, then why bring them up? Why does it bother you so much? So what's the answer? Because they want to discredit it. They want to show how foolish it is and why we should believe in, with them. Yeah, let me see if there are any other questions here. Someone asked about sleep. Shouldn't sleep alone in a room at night. Who says? You live alone. Who are you supposed to sleep with? You don't have pets. Who are you supposed to sleep with? Right? You're not married. Who do you sleep with? Right? I don't know why. I don't know what the source of that would be. But if you live alone, you can't keep water overnight by the bed. Let's say ruach ra. Yeah, why do we wash our hands? Why do Jews wash their hands when they wake up in the morning? Because the soul left them. And the soul comes back. So either we hold we're a totally new creation at that time. Or because our hands may have touched places that are closed or covered. So you have to wash your hands for that also. So even if you don't put water there, there is an opinion that holds that even if you can't put water by the bed, let's say, in order to wash, so you can wash in the bathroom. Or you can wash somewhere else in the house, or apartment. Doesn't necessarily have to be by your bed. It should, but there's a lenient opinion that says, the whole house is almost included. So you can wash almost anywhere. So that wouldn't necessarily be an issue. Again, even if there's let's say impure spirit, goes on our hands or our body, or whatever that we have to wash, what does that have to do with sleeping by yourself? Right? That shouldn't matter. Right? So, if a person isn't married, I don't know if a pet helps over here. I don't think a pet would help. Right? In that case, you say, well, you need another person there. Okay, but what does that have to do with anything? Right? When a person sleeps, yeah, there is going to be this, this ruach ra, however you want to define it, where a person has to wash their hands. Okay, what does that have to do with sleeping by yourself? Right? I don't know why that should matter. And even if you sleep with another person, in the same house, you still get the ruach ra, right? Even if they don't sleep in the same room, same thing. It doesn't change, right? It doesn't mean you can't sleep by yourself, right? That's what I would say. That's what I would say on that. Someone asked, why is first parsha of every book of Chumash has the same name? Because that's the essence of the book. In other words, Bereshis, Genesis, what's the essence of the entire book? It's about creation of the world, right? It's about creation of the world and, and where the Jewish people came from, right? But all stems from creation, right? Exodus, what does it stand for? Coming out of Egypt. So a lot of the book of Exodus is all about coming out of Egypt. Book of Numbers, number of times the census was taken, in the, while they were in the desert. So it starts with that. Leviticus all about what? Sacrifices. So what do you have in the first 5 chapters? All about sacrifice, right? Each book, the beginning, chapter or chapters is the essence of what the whole book's about. So that's why it's called. I think it's one reason why it's called by that. Someone asked, "You required to do your morning prayers on an airplane? Why not? Why wouldn't you? Let's say you get on a plane. Let's say you get on a plane and, it's during the day. It's during the day. So let's say you get on a plane in the afternoon. So if you're able to pray the afternoon service before you get on the plane, very good. Let's say it's going to be a long flight. Wherever you're going to get to is going to be at night. So now what do? I get an obligation to pray on a plane. A lot of times people fly either from America to Israel or vice versa, depending where you're going. You could be somewhere where the sun comes up. So what do you do when the sun comes up? You pray. Now, this is the whole catch-22 because there's certain areas of the plane you don't want to disturb people sleeping, right? That's for sure. Some people with some rabbinical authorities would say don't even have a minion on the plane, right? Forget about having 10 men and making a quorum and having a minion on a plane. It's going to disturb people. Don't do it. Other people will say you can do it. You just have to be, you can't scream it out like you normally would. But let's say you don't have a minion. So you pray in your seat. Why, would I say it's the best place to pray on a plane? No, definitely not. Right, but you're in this tin can in the air, right? And again, let's say you leave in the morning. You've already prayed in the morning, and that flight is not going to get to your final destination until nighttime. So very good. So what do I do in the afternoon? What about my afternoon prayers? Got to say them, even on the plane, right? See if you can stand in the aisle and pray. Very good. If you do it in the back, whatever, you don't disturb anyone. Very good. If not, just say it in your seat. Right? Say in your seat. That's what you should. That's what you should do. It's better, yeah. It definitely is better to pray before you get on the plane. But I'm saying, what if you can't? Praying's not going to help. You want to pray the afternoon service at 10 o'clock in the morning. Can you pray the afternoon service 10 o'clock in the morning? No. That's not, if it's the earliest time you could pray, let's say the earliest time today in some places, let's say it's 12:20 in the afternoon to pray the afternoon service. You're not getting on the plane till 3. Very good. So pray earlier. Right? But again, let's say you couldn't, you were busy, other things. Your final destination is going to get there at night. You're on this plane afternoon. What do? You're going to pray on the plane. Right? You have no choice. Someone asked, save a life, it's okay to lie. Save a life? Yeah. Depends. It depends. Are you allowed to say, I believe in JC to save your life? No. Even if you don't. Even if you make fun of JC every second. At this point, you want to save your life because they know I believe in him. That you can't. Even if you don't. That's a problem. That's idolatry. Right? So, yeah, certain things you're allowed to lie for. That's not, it depends what it is, saving a life. If it's saving a life from idolatry, no. That doesn't help. Lying doesn't help. over here. Saying one thing and thinking something else doesn't help. Not by that. By other things don't help. By idolatry, it won't help. Someone asked, is it okay for Orthodox Jews to have pet dogs? So the whole thing about having non-kosher animals in a house, right? Especially for a woman, let's say, who lives by herself. That most rabbinical authorities hold definitely forbidden. If they have other kids or whatever, dogs are more of an issue. I remember someone asked my Rebbe about rabbits. You have to have rabbits. So he said outside the house. You leave them outside. You don't bring them in. So people stringent, about having non-kosher animals in the house. Again, in a non-Orthodox community, do they have dogs? Yeah. 100%. They'll have dogs, maybe, other pets, whatever it is. Not a problem. In ultra-Orthodox houses, we don't. Nobody has pets. My kids always wanted a pet, and I said, what do you mean? You got all kinds of brothers and sisters. Why would you want pets? Again, if a person lives in a community, that's not an issue. You can have a pet. But for a woman to have a dog live by themselves, that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. Even if the dog sleeps outside, doesn't matter. Has its own quarters. Right? That doesn't seem to matter. Someone asked, what about taking by prayer in an airplane? What about taking steps backwards or forward? You can't do it. I mean, you motion it, but you can't actually physically do it. So what would be worse? What would be worse? Just praying in your seat, going through those motions, even if you can't do it, or disturbing someone who's sleeping by doing it? Disturbing someone who's sleeping by doing it is worse. I have an obligation to pray. Okay, not at someone else's expense. We have to remember, keeping Torah mitzvahs, is doing to the best of our ability and not treading on others. You're not stomping on others, right? Again, one of my personal pet peeves, people that do not have proper hygiene. And they'll cough and they'll hack and they'll wheeze and they're this, and they won't cover their mouth. Why not? I don't have an answer. I don't even have a bad answer. Right? So what about everyone else around them could get sick or who knows what? You're in a public place. I can't answer that. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. But, there's some people just don't have class or manners. They never learned it. They don't think it's important. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. So if you're on a plane, you're right. If you can't pray in the back or in an aisle or whatever, and you can't take 3 steps back, so you don't. You can say, but that's how you pray. All right, what are you going to do? You're in a place, you can't do it. If you're in a place, you can't do it, so that's what you do. What if you're in a wheelchair? You can't stand. You can't do the motions. I mean, you can sort of do the motions, going back and the side and this and that, but you can't stand. You're going to say, all right, lift the person up. Can't do that. I mean, I'm not making fun here, but a person who can't walk, what should they do? They're in the same situation. You're going to say, but that, they don't have a choice. Very good. In your case, you don't have a choice either. If you can pray in the back, you're not going to disturb anyone. Okay. If there's no other way to do it, then yeah. I remember I was on a plane going to Las Vegas, first class, and whatever. So it was in the morning. So I took out my towels and filling. I started praying there. There's enough room there, whatever. So someone said, so my father, of blessed memory, asked one of the flight attendants, said, "Did you ever see anyone do this?" So I said, "Yeah, but in the back of the plane." I thought, my father, I'm not going to the back of the plane. I'm in first class. Come on. What am I going to go in the back of the plane for? So whatever, you do what you got to do. I remember I was in an airport early in the morning. I had to get out on an early flight. So I put on towels and phone in an airport. Had a few people say shalom and wave. I think today maybe people throw rocks or who knows what, but at least people were more friendly then. Could be. But, that's better in a certain way. Definitely better. Some say, I just saw this question recently. Let's say the only place to pray in the airport is in a mosque. Is it better to pray in the mosque or pray where people going back and forth? They're not going to have any concentration. So I thought, well, what's the simple answer? A mosque is not idolatry. Some are going to say it is idolatry. We don't hold it's idolatry, right? So they say better pray in a mosque. At least you have more intention when you're praying in a mosque than if you're praying while people going back and forth on this and that. Yeah, traveling the problem. I definitely agree. Traveling the problem. If a person can, pray beforehand, it solves a lot of problems. But sometimes you can't. What are you gonna do? Sometimes you just have no choice. I remember being on a number of flights going back and forth to Israel. Sun comes up, you got to pray. That's what you got to do. Otherwise you get there, it's going to be too late. Someone comes, let's say, from the States. They leave at 10 o'clock at night. They get to Israel when? 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. So now you get 10 o'clock at night. You already prayed the evening service. Very good. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about the morning prayers? You're going to be on a plane. Sun comes up, you're going to have to pray. Because by the time you get to Israel, it's too late. That's what you got to do. Is it ideal? No. 100% it's not ideal. People fly. Better to fly at the times where you don't have to pray, but it's Murphy's Law. Murphy-Stein's Law. That's what it is. Because when you have to pray, that's when you're going to be on the flight. The way it normally works out. Right? So in that case, when you're talking about taking steps backwards and forwards, you can't do it. Right? If you're on a plane and you can't go to the back or whatever, there's no room to pray, do it in your seat. No different than anyone, God forbid, is crippled or can't do it. Right? 100%, no difference. If they're in a wheelchair or whatever. Someone asked, some rabbinic authorities hold chazor is prohibited in an oven. Putting back on Shabbos, putting back something that's cooked back in an oven. Other rabbinic authorities' opinion is no difference between stovetop and an oven. Yeah, that's what an oven. The problem with an oven is, unless you have a special gauge on the oven where the mode, they have these ovens that have a Shabbos mode. What's a Shabbos mode? It means if you open up the oven, it never changes. Temperature never changes. What's the problem? Problem is, if I open up the oven, thermostat goes on. Even if I have it on low, it doesn't matter. Thermostat's going to go on. That's cooking. That's kindling a flame. Doesn't matter if the pilot light's already lit or whatever. It's irrelevant. If I open the oven, it's going to cause it to go on. That's a problem. If it stays at the same temperature, that's a different issue. If it stays at the same temperature, it's never going to change. I can put it back and do whatever I want. Right? So what would I say? I would say it's better not to. Certainly not on an oven. Stovetop's not a problem. Right? If all the conditions are met, it's not a problem. Right? Same thing by an oven, but an oven has a different problem. And the problem is, if I open the oven, thermostat goes on. That's a different problem. But if you hold according to all the conditions, right? Let's say you take the pot. Let's say I took chicken off my blech, off my hot plate. Right? What are the conditions? I have to hold it in my hand. Right? It can't stay on the counter. Directly on the counter. I have to hold it in my hand, and I have to have intention while I'm putting it into another plate. I have to, it can't touch the ground. It cannot touch the, what's it called? The countertop. I have to hold it in my hands, put it in another plate or whatever I'm putting it in, and have intention to put it back on my hot plate. So if I have the intention, everyone knows you can do that. Right? But you have to have that intention. And it cannot hit the ground, right? Or cannot hit, it cannot hit the countertop. You have to hold it while you're doing it, but you have to have intention while doing it. Right? So I think most rabbinical authorities for sure hold, if I go according to all the conditions, it's fine. Right? That's how we hold, practically speaking. An oven's a different issue. If I held the same thing as an oven, same conditions, very good. Only problem is, if I open the oven and there's a thermostat and the thermostat goes on, that's a problem. That would be a problem. Someone asked, okay, for Noahide to say the morning blessings. Yes. Noahide is allowed to. There's the questions, to say, you can't say, well, thank God I'm not a non-Jew. You can't say that. Right? But most of the morning blessings, for sure you can say. right? That's not a problem. Yeah. Any other questions here? Is it a sin for the Noahites to go out of the apartment with corona? Yeah. Sin for anybody, right? If it's contagious, if they're still contagious. Now people will say, and I'm not going to go through conspiracy theories or whatever. Person, let's say in general, person has a flu. They're feeling better, but let's say they have a fever. They have a low-grade fever. They say, I'm going to will through it. I'm going to take, I'm going to take Tylenol. I'm going to take something for it. I'm going to go out and do what I have to do. Now, why is that a problem? Because potentially you're getting other people sick. Corona is no different, right? In other words, if you're obligated, the law of the land is you got to stay home 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, and be in isolation. So that's what you got to do. People say it doesn't matter, it doesn't help. It's it. If you have it and you're still positive, how can you go anywhere? And if I'm going to say in general, if a person's sick, should they be out? No. Right? If let's say, a person's not feeling so great, but they feel they have to go to synagogue, whatever, pray somewhere there's no one else around. You don't want to affect other people, but someone's going to say, come on, even if you sneeze or whatever goes in the air, people could get it, true. Right? So, if you're not allowed to be, outside, then that'd be a problem. If you're still positive, right? I would say even if you don't know you're still positive, how can you take that chance? Should be allowed, putting someone's life in danger. No matter if they, get the vaccine or not. People have died having the vaccine. Even got it with the vaccine. No, people got the vaccine, got it twice, 3 times. Whatever it is. But if it's highly contagious, now there's strains that they say are highly contagious now. If someone has it, again, it's like being sick with anything else. Something that's contagious. If it's contagious, and you're not over it, then, you shouldn't be outside. Someone asked, is there a way you can donate? Yeah, go to my website, just fixed it up finally. At orthodoxconversion.com. There, every page will have a place to, anyone wants to donate. Thank you for that. Dogs are for protection. Dogs are for protection. Yeah, that might be a different issue. We're talking about dogs as pets in general. If you're using, person has a dog as a German Shepherd for protection or a pit bull. I don't know, people still have pit bulls. I don't know, you have a pit bull for the sake of protection. I mean, they're kind of ugly dogs. No offense, anyone's got a pit bull as a pet. I think they're really nasty looking, but okay. So if a person has that type of dog, yeah, it'd be all right. For protection, it'd be all right. But, what we're saying in general is a pet, it shouldn't be, but for protection, it should be all right. Yeah, any other questions? Why some people pass the next world alive? There were some people, a handful of people, that only died because of the sin of Adam and Eve. Right? You had a handful of people, everyone else who dies because of sin. Essentially, it's because of the sin of Adam and Eve. What do you call it? Elijah the prophet also went up alive. Right? So there are some, I don't have a good answer. Right? Why, some are so holy that they can go into the next world alive? I don't know. It's a good question. But you don't have too many like that. Someone, so holy, you don't see it by Moses, died. Right? Some, I don't know, have to see different cases why, some of them, like Elijah went up, and he never died. Or some other people also, right? That have to see individual cases why. But even of all the greatest people, they all died, right? Why do some don't? I don't know. Good question. Someone mentions most airports have prayer rooms. Yeah, you got to be careful though, because if you have someone hanging on a stick in a prayer room, you can't pray there. Yeah, you can't pray there, right? If it's a Christian place. If it's a Muslim place, you could pray there. A lot of airports, by the way, do have synagogues. That's true. A lot of them do. Someone wants to pray there. Probably the more, religious areas, around, let's say New York and other places that, that would make sense, right? But there are prayer rooms you can't go to. He was on a boat. I think he was going to France. I forget where he's going. He was on a boat. Someone said, "Oh, you want to pray? Come down here." And they had he goes to the bottom of the boat, in this room, and it's all these idols and other things there. So it's yeah, I'll pray somewhere else. All right. So a place like that, you can't pray. If it's a place that's neutral, okay, right, that wouldn't be an issue. Or if it's a mosque, it also wouldn't be an issue. If you had nowhere else to pray, right? Good point. That there are places that do have that have places to pray. Again, if there's idolatry, then you can't pray there. So that you're better off either praying on the plane or finding some corner to pray in, where you're not going to be so disturbed. Sometimes when I go up north, I see, sometimes some girls praying some corner, some corner where, there's no one else around. Okay. If there's a designed place to pray, good. If there's a place to pray where you have too many guys hanging around there, no pun intended, then yeah, you can't pray there. Why mosques okay? Because mosques are not idolatry. We don't hold Islam as idolatry. I saw someone today on my way home. On my way home from learning, I saw whatever is there by a work site, and on the sidewalk, he's on the ground. He's on the ground praying. Technically you can really pray anywhere. You don't need a synagogue, right? You probably have more intention in a closed area, but okay, by the Muslims, they pray anywhere. So this guy's flat in his face. Okay, but we don't hold Islam as idolatry. There is an opinion. Again, I'm not going to say not. There is an opinion that says Islam is idolatry. We don't hold that. Vast majority of rabbinical authorities hold that Islam is not idolatry. Christianity, 100%. 100% is idolatry. Jews are not allowed to go in there. Non-Jews are not allowed to go in. There's a question, can a non-Jew go in? I just dealt with this, I think, last week. Right, class on Noahides, for Noahides, and that is if they go into a church, they have to be in a church for some reason. Cannot participate in the service whatsoever if they're going to go into a church. But most rabbinical authorities, though, they shouldn't go into a church, period. Even if you hold shituf according to non-Jews is not forbidden. This idea of the Trinity, is not forbidden for non-Jews. Major discussion among rabbinical authorities. I could be here till tomorrow. There's a lot of information on this. Bottom line, it's a whole discussion, right? But it comes out, non-Jews shouldn't go in. Unless it's they have no choice. And even if they have no choice, you cannot participate in the service. That's for sure. That 100% for sure. Yeah. Mosque is not idolatry, right? They say the Rambam, I just heard this recently also. They say that the Rambam, if he had no place to pray, you'd pray in a mosque. I don't know if it's 100% true, right? But again, why would even if it is true, is there any problem? It's not a problem. It's not idolatry, right? They believe in one God. They believe in our God. Even if there's, a very small minority opinion that says idolatry, again, we don't hold that. They believe in one God, right? The church has fake JC, right? Someone points out as well, right? They also bow down to statues and yeah. So let's say you were in a place where they had all these statues. Yeah, you can't pray there. They bow down to anything they bow down to, right? Unless they nullify it, or you nullify it some way, which you won't be able to, just knock its head off or something. You won't be able to do it. If you could nullify it, very good. Then you could pray there. If you can't nullify it, which you probably can't, then you have no choice. You can't pray there, right? Because they bow to it. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. 1 second. Someone asks, it's not a bad thing to pay taxes to a Christian government. Again, there's such a thing called the law of the land. The law of the land says it doesn't matter if it's a Christian government. right? I'll tell you like this. I live here in Israel. You know what taxes are like here? You don't want to know. That's why, the tax authority here, audits a lot of people every year. Why? Because they know they have to be hiding money. Because it's like, they take out so much money, of taxes, like, they're trying to figure out how people are living. Right. So, but, you got to pay taxes. Even if it's the Christian government, so what? You're going to say, but my taxes are going to this, that, and the other thing. Terrible things. Listen, I got taxes going to terrible things also. What can I do? I can say I don't work here. That'd be illegal. America would be breathing down my throat. Right? So that's what people do. You got to declare. You got to declare, even if it goes to bad things. It's not your choice. You're going to say, oh, but look, your money's going to this, that, and the other. It's not my choice. So what should I do? Claim I don't work? My Rebbe's always fond of saying there's a verse in the Torah. You know what the verse says? Dvar sheker tircha. I can't lie. You're not allowed to lie. What do you do? Somebody has an all cash business. They have an all cash business. You know what they declare in their taxes? Whatever they want. And if they have, let's say, an extra house, an extra car, an extra this, an extra that, put in someone else's name. Is that legal? No. I learned from a non-Jew, not a religious non-Jew. And he would say, in real estate investing and whatever, you're making money, pay taxes. There's no reason to mess around over here. You're making money, you pay. You should be happy you're making money. Yeah, but they're taking a lot, true. And even if it's the Christian government and so on. It's Christian in name. Is all your tax money going to, crosses and all that? I don't think so. It's going to plenty of other things. Right? But again, there's a law called the law of the land. You have to go according to the law of the land. And if there are legal loopholes, that certain things you don't have to pay taxes on, very good. That's legal. If it's illegal, people will say, that's not stealing. They're taking too much taxes. True. 100% they're taking too much. So, live somewhere else. I can't move somewhere else. Okay. But that's the law of the land. How can you go against the law of the land? You can't go against the law of the land. For something. This is outright stealing. That is no question. Right? That's stealing. For other things, okay. Just because the law of the land says things doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree with it or I have to do it, right? Point in case. Someone comes to a clerk in an office, they push papers. Someone comes, county clerk, and they say, I'm Bob, this is Jim, we're getting married. We want to file. Yeah, and this woman says, well, that goes against my beliefs, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Is she allowed to? Would she be allowed to do it? Right? For a non-Jew, homosexuality is forbidden. So you say, but you're just pushing the papers. That's your job. Okay. So what if it's your job? It's an abomination. How can you sign off on that? Can't. There's the whole thing with a florist. I think similar thing. Florist or a cake maker, whatever it was. And they sued him. Of all people, they say, we're coming to you. You make a cake for our wedding. He says it goes against what I believe. They sued him. They went after him. They said you can't discriminate. Yeah, it goes against your religion. And if they would, they would make you, they would fine you up the gazoo. If you don't do it, you have to think twice. Shut down your business. You're going to say, lose your business? How can you do such a thing? How in the world can you do such a thing? Can you chip in for a gift for a same-sex marriage? No. Can you say mazel tov? Congratulations? No. Certain things you can't do. Someone into marriage. Oh, mazel tov. No. It's disgusting. Shouldn't be done. But they did it. So what? No. It's the law of the land. Taxes are very high. I didn't say it's 70%. It's high. 30% more. It's crazy. And it's a good thing you don't have to pay it every month. You get an account, they tell you, okay, every second month, every 2 months, it's okay, you owe this amount or you owe that amount. You don't play around with the tax people here. Here it's like a mafia in many ways. I hope no, Israeli authorities are listening. The mafia here, they can do whatever they want. They want to take away your business, put you in jail. It's like China, no different, absolutely no difference, right? You don't want, when I opened up a file here last year with whatever, I have an accountant. One of the things they said is do not mess with taxes. You don't, first of all, you don't want to get behind them paying it. You don't have troubles with them. Just pay it. You have the money, you pay it. That's it. They know what they're talking about. They're guiding you, whatever, but they know what they're talking about. Yeah, it's insane. You know what the joke is? How do you make $2 million in Israel? You bring $1 million with you. Even then, that it might not help. Right? I heard recently one of the 5th highest places to live in the world is in Israel. It's more than expensive. But you say, isn't spiritual reasons outweigh that? Sure. But you got to live. You got to live. They were saying, I don't know, last year, a couple of years ago, I don't think it's changed. How do people survive? They live in the minus. They let you go a certain amount of the minus, this, that. Well, they said, well, I remember once, it was whatever, it wasn't so recent, but I remember they were saying it's like billions of shekels people in the minus in the bank. And you owe all kinds, it's like having a credit card. You don't pay it back, they'll charge you like 20% interest on it. So it's like, it's insane. So people say, well, how do people survive? That's how they survive. People live in, I'm not saying they live in tremendously in the minus, some more, some less. Banks don't give you a free reign over you, right? But it's, that's how people survive. People in the States can't understand that, unless you live in the red. They can't understand it. They say you make enough money. Yeah, but you don't. Even religious people, if you live in New York, if you live in New York or New Jersey, you're not making $100,000 a year. You ain't putting money away. If you have kids and they're going to school and you got to send them to the camp and kosher food and all, whatever, you have tuition, you have kosher food, you have car, you have, either a mortgage, or you're paying rent. That's it. That's where the money goes every month. That's where it goes. Who's putting money away? You'll be making a lot more money than that. Put money away. You have 4 or 5 kids. That's it. You're not breaking even. You're in the minus. Right? So some people think that's incredible. You have too many kids. You can't support it. If I had 2 kids, no difference. Still have to survive. Right? You're paying that kind of tuition, other things. Okay. Eventually certain things end. Very good. Right? But, who's putting money away? See, that's what the Satmar Rebbe said. What's the biggest miracle? The biggest miracle is not the 6-day war in Israel. The biggest miracle is how Orthodox Jews in Israel marry off their kids. It's a miracle. I can tell you, I've had 4 miracles. No question. But you see, every wedding hall, they're always booked every night. It's like, people do it somehow. I mean, people tremendously in debt and whatever, but, it's hard enough to make ends meet, and all of a sudden now you make a wedding, throws everything off. Totally throws everything off. Listen, it's for good things. I'm not saying no, it's good things, but in Kemach ain't Torah. You don't have flour, you don't have water, you don't have Torah, meaning flour, meaning money, right? So it's hard. In the States you'll say, oh, people make more money. True, but then you have a lot more expenses. So here you have less expenses in certain things. Certain things offset, but you're making less money. So, but again, in spiritual terms, yeah, nothing to talk about. But yeah, it's forget about the Arabs. Financially, it's hard. Across the board. I don't know too many people have it easy, unless they're working in high tech. They're making much more money. But that's what it is. Yeah. Any other questions here? Someone else says, right, better lose your business than lose your soul, right? People try and hang on to money and they say, well, The IRS doesn't deserve it. I'm going to do this. I'll tell you one thing. Anyone who pulls any shtick, tries to pull the wool over their eyes or whatever, it's going to come back to bite you. 100%. That's what this non-Jewish real estate guru said. Like, you want to set up an LLC and this and that, and you want to hide things, whatever, it's not worth it. Setting up an LLC for business, yeah, that's a different issue. But if you're going to hide things and this and that, you're making money, you pay the taxes. You're making enough money, but you do not want to have a problem. And they can just ruin you, totally ruin you if they want. A person's brazen enough, they'll flatten you like a pancake. Here it's worse. Here, I think it's 10 times worse because they just don't care. They're just more ruthless here, in different ways. So, at the end of the day, you pay it. Regardless, you bite the bullet and that's it. Is there a debtor's prison? The debtor's prison in Israel? No, they'll just come and take your stuff. In other words, if you don't pay somebody, after a while, they'll take you, they'll go to a court. The court say, okay, they're not paying, and you say you can't pay, what are they going to do? You're going to get 3 thugs show up at your door and just start taking furniture. They can do it in the middle of the night. That doesn't matter. They're going to come and they're just going to take whatever you have. It's compensation. I'm not talking you borrow money from the mafia. I'm talking, let's say, you bought an appliance. You bought an appliance from a store. And you owe them money. Let's say credit card didn't go through, or check bounced or whatever the case is. So now you owe them, let's say, $1,000. So after a few months, the person didn't pay. So what happens? They go after them, but they don't just go after them. They're going to threaten the person. They're going to say, we're going to take you to this if you don't do it. And then hopefully the person pays up. Because if not, someone just show up and take things. And, they can do what they want because you owe someone money and they're going to get protection from the courts in order to do this. So what do? They come in and take stuff. You're going to say, how can that be? And that's terrible. You're right. Are you going to go to jail for it? Not necessarily to jail. May not go to jail, but if a person's behind, let's say, paying rent, it's not so easy to get a person out, but you could be on the street. They just take your stuff and throw it in the street. They do it in the States also. It's a little more complicated, but, not so easy, but, it's what it is. There are crazy stories, even if it's not a lot of money. Here, let's say, I'll give an example. Let's say municipal taxes. Renter has to pay them, not the owner, right? So let's say, for water and other things, let's say you got behind. What do? They freeze your bank account until you pay it. It doesn't have to be a lot. I've heard stories. It could be $300. Doesn't have to be a lot of money, right? They can, so what happens? Now everything, your bank account's frozen. Any money that has to go out, whatever you have, it's going out, checks, this, that, everything's going to bounce. They don't care. They want their money. So they don't even come to you. You get warnings, and they just do it. They might shut off your water also, okay? Different things. But, they can do it electronically. You just freeze your account until you pay it. That's for that. Could be for other things. Yeah, it's, what they do. Any other questions? Can a person know that God is not mad at the person? If everyone loves that person, let's say, person's in high standing among other people, then yeah, that's a good sign that God, is happy with you. Can a person really know though? No. In general, no. That's what I would say. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. I am doing Tanakh talk later. It's going to be 3 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock Israel time. Again, more contradictions in the New Testament. I think that's the topic. Otherwise, anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, or be on Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can take a look at my blog, orthodoxconversion.com. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good